Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
Hey, we're excited to be with you today. We want to talk about the idea of independence in marriage, and we want to look at what does that look like?
So there's healthy independence and there's unhealthy independence. Let's look first, what is the healthy independence? Healthy independence has to do with maintaining a sense of self while being fully committed to the relationship. We're individuals and we need to thrive and be healthy individually.
Right. We can have individual personal interests, friendships, and goals that don't neglect the relationship. So you can be different from your spouse. That when you get married, it doesn't mean you're clones of each other.
And we shouldn't try to make our spouse a clone of us, trying to make every decision and everything has to be just like me. But instead, we want to grow individually while still being emotionally available, supportive, and engaged with each other.
You know, we can be strengthening the relationship and fostering mutual respect and be a thriving individual. So we want to celebrate our differences, not try to hide them.
But where couples trip up and kind of go in a negative direction and create distance is when we have unhealthy independence. And sometimes we have unhealthy independence in the name of healthy independence. Well, we're individuals. Unhealthy independence can manifest as emotional detachment. We just have less interest in the other person, less engaged with what's going on with the other person.
You know, this can be involve avoiding shared responsibilities or refusing to consider the need or the perspective of your spouse.
It can turn into isolation where one or both operate like a single person. But if we're going to be married, we need to act like a married person. And that means I don't pursue me at the expense of you.
We want to prioritize or make sure that we're not prioritizing personal goals over the relationship or resisting vulnerability and support.
We want to make sure we're not making major decisions alone without involving the other person. Yeah, there's decisions we will make as individuals, but there's those, and we all know what we mean on those, that impact us both, and we need to both be involved in that.
So we don't want to do things that are going to erode intimacy, weaken trust, or create a sense of feeling lonely, but you're married.
We don't want to act like two separate individuals who are roommates. That isn't very fulfilling in a marriage relationship. So what are some things we can avoid so we don't go there?
Right. So you want to be able to talk about the differences you have on non-negotiables.
So non-negotiables have to do with our values, our beliefs, the way we serve God, for example. That's not the end of it all, but for example, someone may have a belief about attending church regularly and the spouse may not. That's a non-negotiable. You don't try to force someone to go against their beliefs. That's not going to foster closeness in a relationship. So when we have something like that, we have to get to a point where we can accept we're different on this. And I can be okay with that.
Right. So we want to be able to avoid clashing when we have vastly different goals and maybe growing in different directions. We want to have the ability to be married, which is to be sharing your life with another person.
We may need to talk through what are our goals, how can we have goals as a couple, and how can our goals actually blend together where we're working toward one, and how can we grow together in the same direction to the extent we're able and we don't compromise beliefs. What can we do to actually compromise and negotiate on these things that really shouldn't be in the category of the non-negotiables?
Right. Sometimes we can find common ground, find we Sometimes it's just being able to talk about what those goals are, what you're thinking, because if you've got all these things going on internally and you're not verbalizing, this is what I want, this is what I'm moving toward, you're keeping your spouse out in the dark.
Another thing we can do is avoid making major decisions independently of each other, like parenting, budgeting, the way we're spending our time, especially when we're home together. When we make independent decisions that affect the other, guess what? This is going to create distance.
Right. So we want to make sure that we're valuing our spouse's different perspective and not silencing it.
We want to share fully, not holding back information because I want to be in control of this.
You know, how do we manage conflict? When we have a conflict, do we look at it as this is giving me information about my spouse, or do we pull out the gloves and we're ready to spar with each other?
Conflict happens in all marriages. So the difference in a healthy and unhealthy relationship is how we deal with conflict. We want to work through our unresolved issues. These things may hinder us in decision making. So if we can work the kinks out of it, it can help make it a little smoother for joint decision making.
And we want to look at fixing the communication problems that can be present. How can we communicate better? What can we do to make it feel safe to communicate?
Another thing we can do is we can manage our expectations. So we have weekly, daily scheduling of our free and couple time, but a lot of couples never talk about how he and she would like that to go. And guess what? They clash because one thinks it's going to go a certain way and it doesn't turn out that way. If we can plan together so that we can pull together on, okay, what would we time look like then? I might not always get everything I wanted because I'm not single. I'm in a marriage and I have to do everything I do in consideration of my spouse.
You know, sometimes this can take place over maybe a Saturday. Hey, what does this day look like for you? If you have free time or free money, hey, what are your goals? Here's what I was thinking.
So this goes for handling family traditions, holidays, special occasions, other events, budgeting, discussing situations beforehand and privately. Instead of just, surprise, this is the way it turned out, we make a plan. How do we want this to go?
In our marriage, we can do things that are going to foster mutuality and closeness, or on the flip side, do things that are going to make us be more separate from each other. We're still separate individuals, but we can do things to bring that in a healthy way.